The goal is these breakout sessions are designed to really empower pregnancy centers in their education and best practices. The keynote sessions are more designed to encourage you on a personal level because I want a holistic approach to the conference. Yes, I want you to get that education and the best practices information, but I also want you to be filled up.
Welcome to Lifeline for Leaders, a podcast created to strengthen and connect those serving in pregnancy care clinics and pro-life ministries. I'm Linda Thomas.
And I'm Kirk Thomas. Each week we sit down with leaders, ministry partners, authors, and experts who shape the pro-life landscape, sharing practical insights you can use right away and inspiring stories that remind you you're not walking this journey alone.
Our mission is to help you serve with confidence and resilience. This is your community, your support, your lifeline. Today we're joined by Kay Sanford, Senior Conference Director at CareNet. With this year's conference in Houston just 2 weeks away, we're taking you behind the scenes with one of the leaders who helps make it all happen. Whether this will be your first CareNet conference or your 15th, our hope is that after listening to today's conversation, you'll arrive in Houston not just prepared for a conference, but prepared for what God may have in store for you there. Kay, welcome to Lifeline for Leaders.
Welcome, Kay.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Okay, we have so much to talk about, but Kirk, if you'd first lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Linda. I sure will. Heavenly Father, thank you for leaders like Kay who faithfully serve behind the scenes to encourage others. As we prepare for the CareNet conference that's coming up in Houston, help each of us to be open to what you have to teach us and who you place in our path. In your heavenly name, Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Well,
Amen.
Thank you, Kay. I'm excited. I'm excited for the CareNet conference down in the Lone Star State that's coming up. And excited to get to talk to you. First, if you could just give us the overview of who Kay is, where you've been, and what brought you to this point.
Absolutely. Well, I was born and raised in Alabama, so I'm a true Southern girl, and honestly haven't left the southern portion of the United States very much. I did live in New York for a short time after I graduated from college, because I wanted to break into the acting biz. And so that's why you see, I think, some of that that comes out at the conference from my theater background. But I honestly grew up Catholic, which, most people hearing that would think, then she's been pro-life her entire life. But that actually wasn't the case for me. I grew up in a really small town of Selma, Alabama. Abortion was not a topic that was discussed in my small town. It was not something that was discussed in my home. And I honestly didn't even know what it was. And I think when people would say, oh, well, if you're, thinking about, do you have a stance on abortion? I was like, I don't even know what would even go into having a stance on that topic. And I remember I was preparing for a scholarship program that I was doing where I was going to progress to the state level. And I was prepping for like an interview process. And the person who was helping me said, stay away from topics like abortion and just don't even really go there, because you never know what, one judge is going to think one thing and one judge is going to think another thing. And I thought to myself, well, it's a good thing because I don't even know what I think. And even in college, I had friends who had pregnancy scares. And honestly, at that time, I think had any one of them become pregnant, I would have been that friend who probably drove them, to the clinic, because that's just what friends did in the college where we were. So I really, bought into that frame of mind of, it's a woman's choice, a woman's right. And so I really didn't come into contact of like anyone who was able to intelligently talk about the issue of abortion until I was in ministry school years later. And we had someone who was up on stage and was just praying. And it was a conference that we were all putting on at ministry school. And he just started praying through the actual procedure of abortion. And guys, like I was in the corner in like fetal position, just like sobbing that I could have ever been so complicit with something like that I just didn't even have, I had never stopped long enough to think about like what actually happens. And so that was sort of the pivotal moment for me when I was like, Lord, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. And I dedicated my life from that point forward to fighting for the lives of the unborn and for those who were vulnerable. And I think I thought I was just going to like tiptoe into the movement, but that's not how the Lord did that for me either, because I was a youth minister for a long time in Selma. And my kids that were in my youth group had gone to that conference with me. And they were like, man, when we get back, we want to pray in front of City Hall and we want to do this and we want to do this. And I was like, okay. And so I went across the street. I left work for like 15 minutes, ran across the street, put red life tape over my mouth and prayed with them in front of City Hall for 15 minutes, left, went back to work because we were doing VBS that week. And the next morning on the front page of the paper was my picture. It was just my face. It was like abortion protesters in front of City Hall. And I just remember my mom being like, what are you doing?
And Star is Born.
Right, exactly. And so I was like, okay, Lord, we're just going to throw me in the deep end here and I'm just going to swim, I guess. So that was really like the start of everything. And shortly after that, I started working for CareNet and have just really learned as I've gone, and I was so innocent to all the nuances, I think, of Pro Abundant Life Ministry getting into this work. But as I've grown, just naturally in my different roles at CareNet, I started out in fundraising. And so I saw the world of fundraising and donor relations. And then I moved into communications and did, the communication for CareNet for a while. And then I left and was a pregnancy center director for 2 years and then came back to CareNet to work on the conference team. And honestly, thinking back, I would not have changed a single bit of how the Lord moved me to this moment, because the role that I'm in now, I feel like I really get to see I've seen from their perspective how tired they are, how exhausted the work is. And before I might have known, what I thought pregnancy centers needed at a conference, but not until I actually served in that role for 2 years did I actually see it firsthand and know, okay, they need rest. They need encouragement. They need to be filled back up. So we need to plan as many opportunities as possible for the Lord to just pour into them as much as possible, like over the span of a week. And so really every decision I make now, as far as planning the conference, is through that lens of how did I feel when I was a director? What was I dealing with?
You said that the people coming to the conference need rest, but they also need laughter. And I can say you are such a bright light. And I mean, I can't remember, over the years that I've been at the CareNet conference, watching your skits and the different things you put together, I've just belly laughed. And it's just been such an entertaining part of the conference. And I want to thank you for that. You definitely have a gift. And I can see where that comes from, being in theater and everything that you've been through before getting into the pro-life ministry. So thank you for what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, the work is so hard and it's so serious, and that's what they're dealing with every single day. And so you need those moments to kick back and to laugh a little bit and to remember that, the joy of the Lord is our strength. And we don't have to, stay in those serious places all the time. We do a lot of the time just naturally because of what we're doing in this work. But if I can create a space for someone to remember again, why the Lord called them into this in the first place, and to be able to enjoy themselves and enjoy the work and not take themselves maybe so seriously, because I do not take myself very seriously. And I say a lot of things that probably looking back, I may second guess after the conference, but I want it to be a fun, enjoyable environment.
I would like to know about the scope of what you do, the scope of the conference itself, how many, just some of the things that behind the scenes people might not know, what it takes to put the conference on, and maybe some details as far as how many people typically attend the conference and things like that.
Sure. This is the fun part, because it's all the behind the scenes and the logistics. We start about 3 years in advance figuring out where we're going to go. So I actually just got back from a trip last week that I was taking to site hotels and convention centers for 2029. And so we try to plan in advance, mainly because you really have to contract with venues a couple of years in advance to be able to get the best rates, to be able to get a week that is going to work for our program. And so in that sense of looking for places that work for us, I'm usually going to them with a couple of weeks in mind to say, you know, what week can you offer that is going to be the lowest rate for the hotel? And a lot of times that'll line up with a week like Labor Day because they don't have a lot of transient hotel traffic that is coming in already. And so they can offer us, it may be like a really nice resort that typically would charge over $200 a night, but they may come to us and say, man, if you come this week, we'll give it to you for $159. Or, you know, it's rarely $159 anymore, but the hope would be that it would be somewhere in that range, because I try to make it as affordable as possible because, you know, these are ministry leaders. And I tell these venues all the time, I'm like, look, you know, they're selling the family cow to come to conference. So we need to make this as economical as possible for them. And then, you know, you look into things like food and beverage. How much could we serve based on the prices that they have? Coffee. My goodness, this has become one of the biggest things, asking them, you know, how much do you charge per gallon of coffee? And some venues now are charging like $150 of coffee, which is insanity. Yeah. I jokingly ask them, you know, what are you putting in it? Because there's no way coffee costs $150 a gallon. So looking into things like that I know, you know, our attendees enjoy that. And so I want to try to find the lowest prices as possible. But then usually around November of each year, so we'll finish the current conference, and then the start is around November. We will open up our portal for breakout session submissions. And so we just invite everyone to submit any kind of breakout session topic that they would like to teach at the conference. And we have a blind review system on the back end. So we have a committee that reviews all of those breakout sessions and scores them. And the name of the submitter is not attached so that we don't have a bias in, you know, just choosing our friends and the people we like. We want to choose the topics that are the most needed and the most applicable to what pregnancy centers are dealing with. So we go through that whole process of choosing the breakout sessions. Then we start mapping out, okay, what does the schedule need to look like? And what goes into the schedule a lot of times is, can I afford to feed people, you know, given the same price that we would need for them to be fed? How many meals can I do? And so I'll start to build the schedule based on, okay, I think I can do 3 lunches and a dinner, or I think I can do 3 breakfasts and 3 lunches. And so I start to build the schedule around, you know, if I'm going to serve a lunch, I usually want to do that in conjunction with a general session. So I'll have, you know, a lunch and a keynote. And so I start to build the schedule based on pricing. And then we look and see, okay, who are some of the keynote speakers that we want to really encourage and build up the attendees on a personal level. They may have a tie-in with, you know, pro-life ministry, or they may not. They may just be a really great Christian speaker. The goal is these breakout sessions are designed to really empower pregnancy centers in their education and best practices. The keynote sessions are more designed to encourage you on a personal level, because I want a holistic approach to the conference. Yes, I want you to get that education and the best practices information, but I also want you to be filled up. So I look at keynotes that are going to encourage and build up attendees on a personal level. We have a personal prayer team that Life International heads up every year that will come and do personal prayer ministry. And I usually look at, you know, do we want to stick with the same worship band for our worship in the mornings? And, you know, Keith Farron has been doing our devotions now for years, but we start every morning with worship and devotions so that every day is started with putting our focus on the Lord. And then everything kind of flows out of that. So then we open our registration for exhibitors and attendees, and that's usually around like springtime. So it could be March, could be April, depending on when the conference is. But basically when we set the week of the conference, everything works backwards as, 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out. And so the same things happen in that linear time frame every single year. So the same number of weeks out, we open the breakout sessions submissions. The same number of weeks out, we open registration every year. And so it's depending on where that falls is when all of those pieces will open. So we'll have the website up, we'll have all the information about the hotel, about travel, and then Ashley Martello, who's on my team, goes in and really builds that reg site. And so she pulls in all those breakout sessions and builds the registration path for everyone. And then once we get kind of closer is when we start really thinking through all those logistics pieces. So this year we actually added a serve day component to the conference. So normally on Tuesday, we just do pre-conference sessions, which are more of your in-depth sessions. But this year, we started thinking through, we really wanted to make a difference in Houston and make a difference in the city where we're hosting a conference. Instead of just coming and hosting and leaving, we wanted to partner with those local pregnancy centers to actually serve their communities in a tangible way. And so we're doing a serve day with our Houston pregnancy centers and with Community of Faith Church, where we are inviting the community to come and receive free diapers and wipes and personal care products. And we have 50 free strollers to give to the first 50 people who show up. We have breast pumps that we're getting to be able to donate those. And so really just having almost like a community serve project where we have 50 people who've signed up for the conference who are going to volunteer to be a part of that serve day. So they will go to Community of Faith Church and they will partner with those local centers to really serve the needs of the community of Houston. And so we're really excited about that.
So Kay, you said that you led a pregnancy care center prior to your position with CareNet right now. What lessons did you take from those years as an executive director that have maybe carried over to how you plan the conference?
Oh, so many. I know one of the main things that I learned in my time at the pregnancy center was how prideful I had been about thinking that I knew what pregnancy centers needed before and thinking, oh, well, if they would just, do this in their fundraising, they would be so much more successful. Or if they would just do this. And then I got to the pregnancy center and realized that doesn't work. There are so many things that you think from the outside looking in, oh, well, if you only tweaked this. And I think a lot of my pride the Lord dealt with in that role because, man, you have to be so humble in that position of leading a pregnancy center because you're covering so many roles. It's not just that you're the leader. It's not just that you're leading staff or training people. For me at least, I was the janitor. I was fixing toilets. I was fixing things around the office. You just have to be a jack of all trades. And you have to go in with such humility in a role like that because there are so many things that the Lord opened my eyes to that helped me to see, there was a separation, I think, from me and a client before when I was working at CareNet. And then you get into the pregnancy center and you're sitting across from clients who are talking about some of the most harrowing stories and things that they've walked through. And some of them are struggling with addiction still and they're pregnant. And you're trying to figure out, how can I serve this sweet woman who's sitting across from me who needs so much help? And this is as far as, my services go. So I think the humility piece was huge for me to realize that I knew nothing. I absolutely knew nothing. And I really had to depend solely on the Lord for every single thing, every decision I made, every conversation I had with a client. And so coming back into CareNet and being on the national level, that has helped me so much as a leader because a lot of times it's easy for us as humans to insert our own opinions and insert our own thoughts and our own, things that we come to a situation with. But most of the time, the Lord's just asking us to sit and just listen to others, listen to those who are, working alongside us and who are on our teams to really hear what is it that they're dealing with, because I can give you a solution for something that may not work for you because you're coming to this from a totally different background, or you've got a lot going on in your personal life that is feeding into, maybe how you're responding to things at work. And so I'm grateful, because I've never really wanted to be one of those people who just came into any situation with pride. And I think a lot of times confidence is mistaken for pride, but as long as you're showing people on a personal level that you care and that you're there and that you're listening first and foremost, and that you care about them more than you care about the work, that has gone so far in my leadership, because it has really helped me to lead well and to be a servant leader rather than just, busting in like a bull in a china shop and saying, well, this is what I think we should do. Because we all have great ideas, but they aren't all applicable to the situation at hand.
Definitely.
So, Kay, when people arrive at the conference, maybe, like I said in the introduction, maybe they've been there, done that, what would you say to them about what they should maybe take away, or what can they take away from this year's conference? And then maybe someone who hasn't attended before, what can they expect?
I think for anyone, whether you've been coming to the conference for years or whether this is your first year, the main thing that I always try to say on the first day is don't compare yourself to everybody else who's sitting here at this conference. Every single person who is coming to attend is coming to this from a different perspective and from a different city and from a different community and different size pregnancy center, different budget. It's so easy for us to look around at the people that are sitting around us and to hear them talk about, well, at our center, we do this, and think, well, man, I'm not doing that. So I'm not as good, or I'm not as effective for the kingdom as somebody over here who has all this money and, has all these volunteers, and they're able to do all these really grandiose things, because the Lord has placed you exactly where you are in exactly this time for his purpose. And his purpose for you doesn't look like his purpose for, this person sitting over here at the other end of your table. His purpose for her or him is totally different. And he may have them exactly in that spot to do what he has for them to do. And so don't compare yourself to anybody else, and go into the week asking the Lord to show you, hey, by the end of this week, Lord, if you could show me one thing that you want me to focus on in this next year. And whether it's, adding a service or not, maybe it's just paying attention and listening to your staff more. Or maybe it's, hey, we really need to focus this year on servant hearts. And just whatever it is, you can't go wrong if you're following the Lord's guidance. And so nothing that he's going to lead you to do is going to be wrong.
Kay, is there anything specific about Houston that people can get out and see that, sometimes there's field trips and different things like that?
We're in downtown Houston. So we're right in the middle of all of these sports fields and complexes and parking decks. Honestly, it's like, it's a downtown of parking decks. I feel like sometimes there's a Discovery Green that is across the street, which is just this big green open space. And there's like some cute little restaurants that are around that area. But one thing that's new that we're doing this year is a serve day, where we're actually partnering with local pregnancy centers in Houston to serve the community of Houston. And so we have about 50 attendees of the conference who have signed up for this serve day, and they're going to go volunteer with the local pregnancy centers and Community of Faith Church to serve the community of Houston with things like diapers and wipes and strollers and personal care products, because we decided we didn't want to just come and host a conference and leave. We wanted to make a difference in the city where we were going. So we started conversations early with the local centers and said, help us out. Like, tell us, what do you need? What is the need in Houston? And this has built so many bridges already between pregnancy centers and local community leaders in Houston. We had a conversation with some local leaders that honestly, I felt like, we were walking into, maybe we weren't really sure, but it turned out that everyone was just this resounding, yes, we want to do this. And how can we help? And not only that, but they're already making plans for after Serve Day. How are they going to continue getting together and talking about how to serve the community of Houston better as a full, like, holistic scope instead of just siloed ministries doing different things? I'm telling you, the Lord has been so faithful in just a servant's heart deciding we wanted to do something different. And he's turning it into something that I never could have imagined.
I say this every now and then. I do some of these conversations I have, I get like chills, like full body chills that I just had one that is so exciting and so inventive or innovative. Just fantastic way of thinking outside the box and to serve again and leave your mark. Yeah. Kirk, did you have something?
Yeah, I just was, you kind of went into the process of selecting an event where it's placed at. Is that kind of, because last year it was in Charlotte, now it's on the West Coast. So do you try to do that every year? Maybe go East Coast, West Coast, or
I do.
Is that, do you? So
it doesn't always work that way, though. It's funny because, and I can't tell you where the next future sites are, but I was trying so hard to not. It's so easy to stay on the East Coast because there's so many more options that work for us. Because as we've grown, the trouble has been trying to find a venue that can hold all of us under one roof, because that to me is the best case scenario. So we've explored, convention centers here and there, and, having a couple of hotels that are either across the street or connected to a convention center. And I try really hard to space it out where, 1 year we're on the East Coast, and then maybe we're in the middle, and then maybe we're on the West. But it doesn't always work that way, because then there's at least 2 years that I know we're going to be semi-close. But in one of the other cities that I was looking at, we're kind of across on the other side. It's like not super far west, but it's Western. So there's, but the majority of our centers are middle to east on, the United States. And so it's just easier for them to make it. But I don't want to leave those West people out either. I want to come and be close to them too.
Well, it's always very exciting when it's revealed where the next conference is going to be. And I didn't know, for the next couple of years, don't you?
I do.
And you're not going to tell us, are you?
No, I'm not. But people email me all the time and they're like, hey, we're trying to plan. We can't come this year, but we're thinking we can come next year. Can you tell us where it's going to be? And I'll look and see, like, where are they from? And I might be like, well, I will say it will be easier for you next year, but I can't tell them where it's going to be because it's such a fun surprise.
Yeah,
for everyone.
And
this year it's going to be even more fun because we actually have a surprise on the last night that's more of like an unveiling of where next year is going to be. And we have like a game show night on the last night this year so that people can have fun. And I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with, the mission of CareNet, but it's just going to be fun. Everybody's going to dress up and in their best Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal clothes and join us on the last night. We're going to have a really great dinner, and then we'll do, one award, and then we'll have this just full on game show night. And it is going to, I'm just seeing what this guy has put together is the most fun. And that's what we need. We need fun. It's hard enough, the work that everyone is doing in pregnancy centers. We need time to laugh and relax, like you said earlier, Kirk.
I can take this home and learn it when I get back to the center, and absorb it back then. So that's the great thing. I have one last thing, Linda. One of the things you said when you were, it's kind of funny. The as far as a director, being a janitor and working with that toilet. Now, I'm telling all the directors that that's probably one of the most important pieces of equipment that you have. If you don't take care of it, those claims are $100,000 and over, that we have. And it seems like the toilet always starts overrunning Friday afternoon after everybody leaves and then waits till Monday. So
why is that?
That's something. Yeah, I don't know that, but don't discount that duty because that's an important one.
Exactly.
You should have chosen another word than duty, but
no, it was perfect, Kirk. Leave
it. Okay. Anyway, getting a little off topic, I would like to know, Kay, how many attendees are going to be at the conference this year?
So we're looking at about 1,100 this year. And in different years, we have different numbers. It's usually anywhere between, 1,000 and 1,600, depending on where we are in the United States. And this year, we bumped it back. It was a little bit earlier in August. And, as I explained before, that was the best week for getting the rate that we needed at this hotel. And so I thought, okay, we'll try it. And I think for this year, it really is backing into a lot of kids starting school. And so people are just letting us know that was probably, a lot of the reason that some people can't come this year. And so, that's one of those things that we'll try it. We'll try anything once. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so this, has really helped me to see that, okay, we need to go a little bit later in August or beginning of September to make it the best week for everyone. But I'm so excited because the Lord really worked it out. If we had as many attendees as we had in Charlotte, which honestly, that was our largest conference. It was our 50th anniversary. We had so many people. If we had those same numbers this year, we would have had to expand the space over to the convention center, which would have created a lot of traffic. We would have had to build in more time in the schedule to get people over there. And it was like down the hall and around the corner. And you would have had to have literally like breadcrumbs to get over there. But since we were, back a little bit in our numbers and a little bit more intimate, it allows us to be able to all be under one roof, which that is everyone's preference every year. When we ask, they all want to just be together because it's, it's kind of like a family reunion, having everybody together. But it gives us a chance to really love on as many people as possible and to minister to as many people as possible and to make sure that logistically it's better for them to be able to have, as many as we can in the ballroom setting together at those round tables, sharing meals together, sharing stories with each other. And I'm so excited that, numbers are not a thing for us. I think people, they'll typically ask, oh, are you guys down? Are you guys up? Or, and that to me is a number is a number. God picks exactly who he needs to be at that conference and who he wants to be there to receive whatever it is that he has for them. And we're just the servants, that we're just the hands and feet that really make that happen. And so I just am always so open, like, Lord, if we got down to, 200 people one year, that would be fine too. And we would do everything the same way for those 200 people, because I know that whoever he's picking to come and whoever he has to be there, it's for a reason. And so I want to make sure that I'm being open to the Lord in whatever ways it is that we need to minister to them in the ways that he wants us to, rather than, things that we conjure up in our own minds about what looks successful and maybe what doesn't look successful to the outside world. We're really just about the one in front of us.
If there is someone who has not registered yet to attend, is it too late?
No, it's not. They can go to carenetconference.org, and we have all the listings of, what the price points are for registering. It is in the late pricing now, but there is always space. We will always make space, and we will always work to make it accessible to as many people or as few people as possible. So we would love to have anyone who maybe is on the fence and trying to decide whether or not they can make it. We will have everything for you, and we'll welcome you with open arms.
I love that. Just like a family reunion, just like you said.
Yes.
All right. So at the end of each episode, Kay, I ask the same question, and that is, if you could leave our listeners with one lifeline, one piece of encouragement or practical insight or wisdom that they could take with them right away, what would that be?
I think it would be that no matter what you do and no matter what you're facing, as long as you're keeping your eyes focused on him, on the Lord, and on what, keeping your ears tuned to what he is saying and how he's directing you. There are so many things that are so easy to miss in our everyday lives that maybe we think are just everyday things. But the Lord has a way of using every single circumstance, every single conversation to greater things. And ultimately, it's all for his glory. But you can't go wrong if you are just putting your eyes on the Lord and following him and listening for his voice. So no matter what it is that today has brought, no matter what it is that this season has brought, whether that's personally in your personal life or whether that's professionally in the work that you're doing, keeping your eyes on the Lord will never fail you. As long as we are chasing after him and wanting to do things in accordance to his will and for his glory, he will never steer us wrong.
Well put,
Okay, thank
Kay.
you so much for that. And I'm sure that there's a lot of pressure in what you do in planning these conferences, but you have definitely been grounded in his word, and you we can see that through you. So again, thank you for that. Thank you for all you do. We are looking forward to the conference. We'll be in booth 420 and hope to see everyone there. And to our listeners, keep leading with courage and compassion.
Thanks for joining us today on Lifeline for Leaders. If today's episode was meaningful, feel free to share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation.
Remember, you don't have to walk this mission alone. We're honored to walk alongside you.
See you next time.